And since we are in Charlotte and we are in North Carolina, and you have a representative from Charlotte and from North Carolina, I have a unanimous consent request. I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record an article written by Simone Jasper entitled Two North Carolina Cities Rank Among the Safest in the Country. Here's why. It notes that Charlotte is the 9th safest city in the country and Raleigh is the 10th safest city in the country. And while I'm honored to have the Judiciary Committee here, I think that North Carolina, while we can always do better, has done better than many of the cities that we have failed to visit. Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you, Ranking Member. I now recognize today's witnesses. We will start with Ms. Alderman. Right down.
Thank you all again for being here, Ms. Alderman.
Members of the committee, thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Mia Alderman. I'm the grandmother of Mary Collins. Mary Collins. Mary was sadistically tortured. She was tortured. She was brutally murdered in Charlotte, North Carolina in 2020. This is 2025 and a half. Mary was only 20 years old when her life was taken in the most horrific way imaginable. She was bludgeoned in the head. She was stabbed over 130 times. Mary was then bled out in a bathtub. All of Mary's blood went down into the Charlotte sewer system. Mary was then wrapped in plastic and hidden inside a mattress, while myself and my family and then members of the community tried to get to Mary. I myself was inside the apartment yelling Mary's name. To no avail. I'm sorry. This is very difficult. I have it written out, but then as I sat here, I sort of decided that I needed to go a little further. Our family's now endured more than 5 years of waiting, and still her case has not gone to trial. 5 years is not justice. 5 years is torment. Every day of delay deepens the wound for our family and makes a mockery of accountability. What makes this even more unbearable is how the justice system has handled those accused of Mary's murder. Thank you. 2 of them were released on bond, as if their crimes were minor, as if they stole
D. Jeff, I don't know how to pronounce that, or is it just Jeff? What is goody? What's goody?
One in particular, her name is America Ray Deal. She remains free on bond today, despite repeated violations of her curfew and ankle monitor conditions. She has faced little to no consequence. We know she has broken curfew, left her home, pushed the boundaries of the very system meant to contain her. She basically thumps her nose at it, which you can see for yourself on the photos that she posted on social media. They've now been taken down, but we have copies.
You can check it out. This is what it's all about, I guess. It's a brief description.
Of such cruelty walk free while we, Mary's family, serve a life sentence of grief. The failures did not begin in the courtroom. They began when Mary was killed. For days, family, friends, and the community pleaded for help. I was pleading as Mary's, I don't know the right word. Mary had a disability. And an invisible disability, if you're familiar with invisible disabilities, that means that you can't really, look at her and tell. Caregiver would be the right word. The police department
I don't know
and
if
the
there's the
detective
family
would
in the
not
back.
comprehend what I was saying about Mary and how these people had her.
It was
and they were
Mary, I
hurting
think her
her,
name
and
was,
I
that she
needed
was
to get
killed.
to her.
She has special needs.
It was long and it was torturous to even get him to go through that apartment door where she lay wrapped in plastic and concealed inside a mattress. It was 8 days since Mary left home. When they brought Mary out, it was finally the night of April 4th. She left the house on March 28th. The next day
Bear
was
with
Mary's
me.
mother's birthday.
I'm gonna get me
April
my
5th.
coffee. Hopefully, I can still see the TV in a
That
terrible
delay
way.
cost precious time, and it compounded the horror of what we
Shitty
later
angles.
learned had happened inside. I cannot speak everything that happened to Mary, because if I try to speak what happened to Mary, I will no longer be able to sit or stand. So you're going to have to use your imagination on that part.
We are listening
Are we?
to heart-wrenching testimony of the grandmother of a murder victim from Charlotte, North Carolina, as the House Judiciary Subcommittee is discussing crime in that area and focusing on repeat offenders. However, I did want to transition to this as we do see House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries speaking ahead of his
It was a
meeting
crime
with
committed
President
in
Trump.
2021, I believe.
As opposed to allowing tens of millions of Americans to experience dramatically increased healthcare costs. What we will not do is support a partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the healthcare of the American people. Over the last several months, Republicans have created a healthcare crisis in the United States of America. Largest cut to Medicaid in American history, triggering the possibility of a $536 billion cut to Medicare if Congress does not act, because of what happened with the One Big Ugly Bill. Republicans have refused to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, and as a result of that, millions of working class Americans are going to experience skyrocketing premiums, copays, and deductibles at a time when America is already too expensive. Hospitals are closing. Nursing homes are closing. Community-based health centers are closing because of what Republicans have done in their One Big Ugly Bill. The Centers for Disease Control are under attack in the appropriation bill that Republicans have put forth in this month. The National Institute of Health under attack because of what Republicans have done in their appropriations bill this month. And they're limiting the ability of children and families to get vaccines. This is a five-alarm fire in terms of the Republican-caused healthcare crisis. And that's why Democrats are determined to turn things around. Questions?
The White House today, you get some assurances that they're willing to negotiate on extending the Obamacare subsidies. If that happens, would you then be open to a clean CR for the next 7 weeks?
Our position in the spending bill that has been introduced by House and Senate Democrats is a permanent extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Enough with the games that Republicans have been playing connected to the health care of the American people. And no one can trust their word on health care. Are you kidding me? These people have been trying to repeal and displace people off the Affordable Care Act since 2010. That's 15 years. And on behalf of the American people, we're supposed to simply take their word that they're willing to negotiate. The American people know that would be an unreasonable thing for us to do. Thank you.
Do you really think that the president is in a position and in a mood to negotiate? He canceled the meeting last week. Do you also anticipate that this would be one of these, yelling matches that we've seen in the White House Oval Office before, and you walk out and everybody looks worse after the meeting.
We've made clear that we are willing to find a bipartisan path forward on a spending bill negotiated by Democrats and Republicans. But it has to meet the needs of the American people. We're not going to simply go along to get along with a Republican bill that continues to gut the health care of everyday Americans who are already living with this Trump economy where costs aren't going down, but they're going up. Inflation is going up. Donald Trump and Republicans promised to lower the high cost of living on day one. That hasn't happened.
Do you think he's right?
And now we're on the brink of tens of millions of Americans literally experiencing premiums that are going to increase by thousands of dollars a year. This is going to cause people to fall into medical bankruptcy. That's not acceptable in the wealthiest country in the history of the world.
One of my colleagues spoke with the president just yesterday. He basically said that unless you, as Democrats, back down off of your position, a shutdown is likely. Specifically, he said, I just don't know how we're going to solve this issue of Democrats. He says they're not interested in fraud, waste, and abuse. And then with respect to health care, he says that basically it's got to address immigration and border-related matters. Otherwise, it's just not acceptable to us. So can you specifically respond to that, and are you open to compromise?
We've said from the beginning that we're willing to find a bipartisan path forward, and our line in the sand is the bill has to help everyday Americans, not hurt everyday Americans. Let's be clear about what this group of people have done. This one big ugly bill that Republicans passed, they're telling the American people what they're all about. Largest cut to Medicaid in American history. Ripping food from the mouths of hungry children, hungry seniors, and hungry veterans, and they did all of that to reward their billionaire donors with massive tax breaks. That's what Republicans have been all about in terms of governing this year. And we're not down with any of that. It's not complicated. So our view is, yeah, we'll find a bipartisan path forward to meet the needs of the American people, starting with health care and lowering the high cost of living. Because we're in a healthcare crisis right now. Let me address the continued effort to try to misrepresent the Democratic position. In fact, Republicans are lying because they know they don't have the high ground. They have a weak position because they're trying to continue to hurt the American people. Federal law prohibits the expenditure of taxpayer dollars on providing health care to undocumented immigrants. Nowhere have Democrats suggested that we're interested in changing federal law. The question for the president is whether he's interested in protecting the health care of the American people.
Mr. Leader, Can you talk a little bit about your approach to the meeting today, given the fact that you've not met the president face-to-face like this before? And then secondly, the idea, as you talk about a five-alarm fire, do you have a concern that if the government shuts down, it only makes the five-alarm fire worse?
Here's the thing. Republicans control the House and the Senate, and there's a Republican president. If the government shuts down, it's because Republicans want to shut the government down. We've been in a five-alarm fire since January 20th. Mass firings have occurred since January 20th. They've triggered an environment where costs are going up, not down, despite their promise to change that dynamic. All the things that make America the great country that we are actually under assault. And in this country, wealthiest country in the history of the world, our view is simple. If you work hard and play by the rules, you should be able to live the good life. That's what we're fighting to achieve. Good paying jobs, good housing, good health care, good education for your children, and a good retirement. And for millions of Americans, they're doing the first two things. They're working hard. They're playing by the rules, but they're unable to live the good life. And good health care is a big part of that American dream. Our approach, and Leader Schumer and I are in lockstep. House Democrats, Senate Democrats are in lockstep. We're heading into the meeting to have a good faith negotiation about landing the plane in a way that avoids a government shutdown, but does not continue the Republican assault on the healthcare of the American people.
Why not allow the typical appropriations process? I mean, what are Republicans going to get out of this? It's just 7 weeks of funding for a whole host of demands.
In terms of the typical appropriations process, what House Republicans have done is to continue the Republican assault on healthcare. A $1 billion plus cut that House Republicans are proposing with respect to the Centers for Disease Control. About a $450 million cut to the National Institute of Health. Republicans are trying to take vaccines away from children and families in this country. That's in their appropriations bill. That's their process that they're trying to jam down the throats of the American people. And Democrats are not interested in participating in the continued Republican assault to gut health care. Period, full stop. We've been very clear about this for months. That's why we oppose the one big ugly bill. And that's why we believe that simply accepting the Republican plan to continue to assault and gut health care is unacceptable. Last question.
Criticisms of those that as far as that off that spark, they say they really want to try to take it down and low-income people. Are you confident that Democrats, if the government shuts down,
Oh, what's good is Snow? What up? I didn't notice you was talking right there. My bad.
they're saying, hey, they need to do what you want. You're the ones that are representing people.
I don't think either party cares about anything really, but
to jam a spending bill down the throats of the
they're
American
giving
people.
us the
That was
theatrics
a partisan spending
of a
bill
shutdown.
that Democrats in the House strongly opposed in March because it hurt veterans, hurt children, hurt seniors, hurt housing.
I didn't know I had to scroll
affordability,
this whole thing. I thought I was gonna
hurt
get
childcare,
immediate messages,
and it
but what's
hurt
going on, people?
the health of the American people. That's why we opposed
Southern
the partisan
Page,
Republican
pagan
spending bill
princess.
in March. If the Republicans were interested in finding bipartisan common ground around a spending bill, then the baseline should actually be the bill that had strong bipartisan support in December, signed into law by President Joe Biden. Our position will continue to be clear in this meeting and as we communicate to the American people. Cancel the cuts, lower the costs, save health care. Thank you, everyone.
We were just
Do you
listening
believe
to
they're looking to
House
save
Minority
anything,
Leader
really?
Jeffries,
I
who
don't
was
know.
speaking to the media ahead of
They're gonna
his
get
meeting
to
with
meet up with
President
Trump and
President
possibly
Trump is set
work
to meet
things
with
out.
top congressional leaders at 3 p.m. Eastern Time to talk about the potential government shutdown. That potential shutdown could happen Tuesday night if Congress fails to pass funding legislation and if President Trump is unable to sign that legislation. So if a shutdown does occur, some government offices will be temporarily closed and non-exempt federal employees will be impacted. We, of course, are going to continue to keep a very close eye on this. And we also wanted to share this. If you're just joining us at this point in time, Jeffries speaking about the government funding negotiations. This is from Fox News correspondent Chad Pergram saying what we will not do is support a partisan spending bill that continues to create a health care crisis. So we were hearing just briefly from House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries as you're taking a live look right here at the
No, I
US
might just have to
Capitol.
swat the lies
Democratic
away.
and Republican congressional leaders, they are going to be
This
heading
bunch of
into
liars
the White
over
House
here.
for a meeting with President Trump. That is slated for 3 p.m. Eastern Time, all in an effort to avoid a government shutdown. However,
They're talking about a
both sides
shutdown.
have really dug in their heels from their positions. So if government funding legislation is not passed by Congress, is not signed by President Trump tomorrow night, many government offices across the nation will be temporarily closed and non-exempt federal employees will be furloughed. Republicans, they are daring Democrats to vote against legislation that would keep government funding, mostly at current levels. However, as we were just hearing from House Minority Leader Jeffries, Democrats have held firm, and they're using one of their few points of leverage to demand Congress take up legislation to extend health care benefits. So we were just hearing from Jeffries right there. We are going to just step away briefly, continuing our...
Every case requires